Loving Sai Ram, Brother Girish Jandhyala. The Sri Sathya Sai Global Council West Indies lovingly welcomes you to the series Awake, Unite and Inspire. We are really honored, privileged and happy to have you as the guest on our program this evening. So, Brother Girish, before we start, can we begin with some chanting of slokas from your side?
Om Shri Sai Ram. Shriyuta Murti Vatsalata Chindedi Sundara Sathya Kirti. Apyayata Rupudalchina Krupavara Sagara Chakravarti. Sushraya Mugurchi Bodalu Vachinchi Sukokila Ganamurti. Shri Sathya Saisha Ni Charana Sarasamul Bhajinchadan Prabhu. This is a prayer song to Swami, invoking Swami's blessings to the program and to where we are today. If it's okay, I will chant one more. E Swami Mahimache Ella Nakshatralu Milamila Minti Ai Meriyuchunde. E Swami Mahimache I Mahi Chakrammu Tejassuto Sada Tiruguchunde. E Swami Mahimache I Jiva Santati Kramamaina Paddatin Bratukuchunde. E Swami Mahimache Ila Sathya Shanti Ahimsa Prema Dharmalu Saguchunde. A Mahaswami Mahimache Aikyarat Prapancha Samiti Shanti Samuparjinchu Satamu Sarvajana Sukha Sankshema Saukya Pragati Swami Mahimache Matrame Saguchunde. Sai Ram.
So, brother, can you translate a little bit of the last part for us?
Absolutely, thank you. So it says, incidentally, this poem was written by my grandfather. I'll briefly talk about him as well in a while. E Swami Mahimache Ella Nakshatralu Melamila Mintipai Meriyuchunde, with which God's grace have all these stars in the sky really shine every night after night. E Swami Mahimache Mahi Chakrammu Tejassuto Sada Tiruguchunde, with whose grace is this planet, beautiful planet Earth, moves without any stop at all. E Swami Mahimache I Jiva Santati Kramamaina Paddatun Bratukuchunde. Every species, if you take, has a discipline of its own that it follows and who is really guiding all of the species in the world. E Swami Mahimache Ila Sathya Shanti Ahimsa Prema Dharmalu Saguchunde, with whose blessing is really all of these truth, non-violence, peace, love, dharma, the character, all of that we talk about is really falling in place. That Swami is with us. That Swami we have among us today, and whose blessings we have got in abundance. And we bow down to you, Swami, who has blessed us abundantly today.
Very, very beautiful and very blissful. So, brother, kindly share with us, how did you first come into contact with Sri Sathya Sai Baba?
Thank you. I was, I would say, fortunate to be born into Sai family. I did not, to my knowledge, put a lot of effort to know Bhagawan. That was a blessing that I was fortunate to receive, where my family was already inclined to Bhagawan in the 80s. It's not, Swami wasn't really the household name like it is now, even in India. So it took really a lot of effort to know Swami, especially because where Swami was, Prashanthi, Nilayam, the Puttaparthi, was really a remote village. And that was a task in itself to go to Prashanthi Nilayam and to be with Swami, to know Swami, and all of that. And I was fortunate to be born into a family who had made that effort to know Bhagawan and to be with Bhagawan and to be his devotees. My grandfather particularly, ours was only a third generation. So my grandfather was the first one in our family to know Swami. He got a calling to go to Swami. He was a teacher down south in Andhra Pradesh. And he got a calling from Swami to go and be And thereafter, everything just fell in place for us as a family. We naturally connected to Bhagawan. He went on to pen many books about Swami with the blessings of Swami, and Swami asked him to teach in the school. So he became a teacher after he retired as a teacher and came to Swami to enjoy his retirement. Swami gave him another task to be the teacher again. Like Swami says, you never retire, you're just retired. You're like a new car, right? You tire yourself once again, and then you're all good to go all over again. So he was retired, and he got a job in Swami's school. So he used to have darshan in the morning and evening, and then in the afternoons he used to go and teach in the school as well. And particularly about him, if I could mention a few words, brother, he got an opportunity to pen many books, like I said, over 100. And one of them, the crest jewel of all of his writings, was the biggest blessing that Swami had given him, and to all of us as well, in the form of the holy book Tapovanam that he wrote. And that was completely guided by Bhagawan, many organizations across the world. And I think it was translated to 30 plus languages as a book, though he's written it in Swami's language, the Telugu, his mother tongue as well. And it was translated later to 30 plus languages. And this particular book is now called the Satcharitra, because that's the holy book, that recitation that you could do as a prayer, as a form of worship to Swami from Thursday to Thursday. So it's like a chapter book where you could really read day after day a certain number of themes in the book, so to say. And both my uncles particularly also, and my dad, have fully dedicated themselves to Swami's work today. A little bit about my family. My dad leads the devotional wing in the state of Andhra Pradesh at the district level. And my sister and I were just fully fortunate to be born in the Sai fold. I have had interactions with Bhagawan from a young age, even before we knew Swami was God. I used to tell my sister, I still recall, that we are going to Prashanthi Nilayam to see our uncle around, or it's like a relations that we go and meet every summer, every festival. It's just like one more. But then this relation comes with a little bit difference, because he's so popular. He's just not got just us as his family. He's got more people that will come and meet him, versus our other uncles and aunts who just have us as guests. But this uncle has more guests. So, but that's how we used to be able to see Swami, and from then on, the learning, that the divinity around him, and everything that went with all of our lives after that have completely changed to a different life that we have today. And I was also fortunate to be his student for a period of 10 years. And that is really the golden period in my life in many ways.
Thank you very, very much, brother, for that divine and soulful sharing. Can you share the name of your grandfather, the author of that book, the Tapovanam?
Sure. His name is Sri Venkateshwara Shastri. He goes by a pen name, Shantisri, and that's how he is known at the literature, in the literature world. Shantisri is what he goes by.
Wonderful. So, brother, you spent many years in Prashanthi Nilayam as a student, and I am positive and sure you've had many wonderful experiences with Mother Sai over the years. Can you share two of your most memorable experiences with Mother Sai?
Definitely. I spent a considerable amount of time in Prashanthi Nilayam as a student, and also as a devotee of Bhagawan. So there are many experiences that I have had the good fortune of receiving Bhagawan's blessing. Two, if I were to point out, the day I realized the divinity of Bhagawan. Like I said, when you have something so close, something so available to you, you really don't understand the value of it so easily. And this was my divine moment, where I had no doubt after this that yes, it is Bhagavan that I must seek in my life, and this is the form, this is the divinity that I will really attach myself to. And that all of us have different moments. Some of us have it in our dreams, some of us have it through a talk, some of us have it through a book. For some of us it's just natural, but for someone like me who is so slow and lethargic in this field, Swami needed to really give me an electric shock to tell me who he is. And that was one such incident I'll share with you. It's small, but then it's so big for me and life-changing. In the years that I spent, there was always one thing that boys enjoyed, students enjoyed, and also feared at the same time, which is Swami picking on you to do a task. Swami would come every evening for darshan. I say evening, of course, Swami comes in the morning and evening as well. But as students, we would only come in the evenings to see Swami and to have Swami's darshan. So every evening, Swami would have his routine, that is to give darshan to start with, and then pick some devotees for a special interview, for a special meeting inside, and then followed by bhajans. And Swami retires back to his residence. This is the regular routine if nothing special were to happen that day. And sometimes, like Swami is, he would choose to do it differently. There are guests come by and there are speakers, and there are sometimes Swami asking a certain student to do something. And so it was always like considered a privilege when Swami asks someone to do something. But at the same time, you really got to step up and be at Swami's expectation if he asks you to do something. I always wanted Swami to call me to do something, not because of the blessings alone, but also you would become very popular among students, that Swami is calling on you to do a certain task. So that's what I probably wanted more than the blessings itself. But I wanted Swami to call me, but I never really prepared myself. What if Swami calls me to dance? Do I even know how to dance? I don't know. And that holds good for all of us in our lives as well. We want Swami to give us so many things, but are we really ready with the ball to receive when he starts to give? And this was my moment exactly of that. So Swami was sitting there. He was reading many letters that he's already received. I had a letter in my hand too, and I had a good fortune of sitting in the front row. I was pushing my letter as much as I could so I get his attention. And lo and behold, I caught Swami's attention. And Swami did ask me to come to him to give the picture to him. So I got the picture here. I'll just quickly show you the picture as soon as I can. And in the meanwhile, while I'm bringing that up, Swami asked me to come to him to give the picture, to give the letter, and I go to him and start sitting there. So because it's not just a letter, what would I, as a young boy of 15, 16 years, really write in the letter to Swami? It's just my prayers, and it's not really anything that's that important or anything on those lines. But I would just hand over this letter to Swami, and Swami, I wanted him to read the letter right in front of me, because whatever opportunity you could get with Swami, you would want to do. So I'm not, at least he's not asking me to go back. So I would sit there and wait for Swami to open my letter, read it. If he had any doubts in my letter, he could ask and I could give. So every opportunity I could take, I was taking at that moment. Little did I realize at that point that something were to come in a while, which I am not ready for. Swami let me sit there. He read my letter. He folded the letter back and he put it in his other hand and said, "Poi maatladu," meaning go and speak. Well, I have never spoken before in front of Swami ever, but then not even in the college or school, I was never considered a speaker. There were always better students who are extempore, who would always come up and who would want to speak. So I always shied away from the mic. Swami said, "Poi maatladu." I understood clearly what he meant because I speak the same language as well. But I wanted to not understand what he said at this point. and sort of act dumb and walk back to my seat because I know I'm going to be in trouble if I actually understand him. So I did not react immediately. I was like, Swami, no, you are talking to the wrong person. And was about to leave, and Swami again said, Poi maatladu. And by then, even before I prepared myself, somebody else next to Swami heard it, and there was already a podium and a mic arranged just there, as even he was telling me, Poi maatladu. And Swami seemed serious now. I need to do something. And I wanted to ask Swami, what should I even speak about? Okay, you gave me the problem, also give me the solution. And Swami closed his eyes and was waiting for something to happen. And I'm still sitting there in front of him. He wouldn't look at me. So it was my turn to do something. And people around Swami were saying, okay, he already told you what to do, so go from here and start speaking. I went to the mic, stood there for a while. I still couldn't open my mouth or speak. I just looked up. There were like 10,000 people in Kulwant Hall waiting for something important to be said, while I'm not the person to say anything important at that point. And Swami was still closing his eyes and seemed to be in a state of bliss, like I was really saying something very important. I didn't have anything to say. I wasn't prepared a bit. And my mind went blank too. So I went back to Swami, walking back from the podium again, and said, Swami, and I got Swami's attention this time, even though his eyes were closed. Swami, you wanted me to speak, all right, but what should I really speak about? Like whatever he told me, I was ready for. Like you would really ask that question only if you are such a great speaker that any topic Swami gives you, you can really go back and speak. I was none of those, but I still had the courage to ask Swami, okay, what do you want me to speak about? Swami was looked really serious at me and said, Poi maatladu. And then I knew my time was up there. I need to really do something. I went back to the podium and started to speak. I said Om Shri Sai Ram. I remember that to date. I do not remember what I spoke after that. It just took me a few minutes to gather myself, held the podium really strong, say the words Om Shri Sai Ram, and I remember closing my eyes and in prayer or in some sort of panic and submission to God. These feelings I remember, and I spoke for 20 minutes after that. I do not remember a word I have said to date. I tried asking many friends, what did I say? People said different things. Nothing seemed like anything I said. All I remember was after 20 minutes, I somehow concluded it. And there was applause for so long. Like I said, really something very interesting. And then I went running back to Swami because I alone knew what happened there. And then that was not the miracle. Swami can do any of these. He can make the dumb speak. He can make the deaf hear. He can make the blind see. That's nothing greatness here. That's not something we are talking about. We all know that. That's why we are in Swami's fold. But here is what Swami said after that. When I was crying on his, holding his hand in thanks, in gratitude, and Swami said, Nenu maatladinappudu mannappudu maatladu. When I ask you to speak, you must speak. Then he went on saying, when I give you the problem, I will also give you the solution. I will also give you the courage to solve it. So that is what was a lesson lifelong for me. So every time we have a problem that we go to Swami and say, Swami, I have a problem. Swami says, no, don't come to me saying I have a problem. Instead, go to your problem and tell the problem, I have my Swami. Try doing whatever you want to do. That is when Swami would be really impressed. And that was the lesson that I took with me. One, the omnipresence of his, that he could do anything he wants to. He could make an idiot like me really speak so eloquently in a great manner. At the same time, giving a lifelong lesson for me that when he gives you the problem, he will also give you the courage. He will also give you the strength to face the problem. Sorry if I took too long. Pardon me.
No, brother, this was absolutely beautiful, inspiring, and soulful. So that is one experience you have. So you have another one that you can share with us?
Sure. This was again in Prashanthi Nilayam. I wanted to focus a little bit on Swami's omnipresence. We all understand, we easily say it now, uh, we're all understanding Swami's words, understanding the literature around Swami, but how much do we really understand the intent, the meaning, the depth of what we talk about? I was told from childhood that Swami is omnipresent, Swami is omnipotent, Swami is omniscient. He can be anywhere, he is all powerful, he can do anything, which is fine, which is what again we all understand. But what really does that mean? When we say Swami is omniscient, he's everywhere, literally right now here. Is this how I behave if Swami were to really sit in flesh and blood next to me? So for some reason, subconsciously, though I know this is the truth, I do not believe Swami is here. Because I am behaving differently when Swami is here, versus Swami is, I don't see him, so he is not there. But I'm saying Swami is omniscient, proudly, loudly, clearly, but I don't really understand it. So this was a young boy, again, in Prashanthi Nilayam, with this thought, this confusion. Swami, you said these three things so easily, but I'm sure none of your devotees understand it. So you have to do better as God to give us this response, to give us this. So these were my thoughts. I never shared it with Swami. But then when I was thinking on these lines, it's not that I did any in-depth research on this, but some thoughts whenever I heard of it, and it is still lying somewhere in the back of my head. On one occasion, I'll just quickly narrate a story. In Prashanthi Nilayam, it's a practice that Swami goes to Vrindavan once a year. These were the days, good old days, when Swami would spend the most of the year in Prashanthi Nilayam, and as a Prashanthi Nilayam Puttaparthi, the main, the central sanctum sanctorum where Puttaparthi is and where Swami's organizations are. And Vrindavan is in Bangalore. It's called Vrindavan, the Swami's facility there. And Swami would go there during the peak summer because it's so hot in Puttaparthi that it's much easier for the devotees and everyone to assemble and see Swami. It's just much more pleasant in Vrindavan. And this was a particular time when Swami was about to leave to Vrindavan. Nobody knows Swami's plans, so none of us knew exactly when Swami is leaving, but we all knew it's coming around the corner. Anytime Swami would leave. It's a great moment for people in Vrindavan, students in Vrindavan, and the worst time for students in Prashanthi Nilayam because Swami is going to leave. And unfortunately for us, that would also happen to be the time where we are going to have our annual exams. That is when you need really Swami the most. I mean, the regular time Swami is there or not there doesn't really matter. But during exams, Swami, I really need you. And then Swami is about to leave. So we, like kids, did everything we could. We took our pens, pencils, erasers, sharpeners to Swami. Swami, you're leaving anyway, but bless all these so I can write my exam with this. That's how accessible Swami was. But then one such day, Swami was about to leave. The announcement was made. And we were all assembled in Mandir on a morning session. I was telling you earlier, we don't usually assemble in the mornings. But since Swami was leaving that day, since that would be a last darshan for a while, the students were asked to come in the morning session as well. And we did come. We assembled in the Mandir. Swami's car were to come and was waiting. Swami was in the interview room. Swami had to now come out, get into the car, bid a bye, farewell, and then he would leave. That's the routine. So 5-10 minutes when Swami is outside, you get to see his car. You get to see the inside of the car. Like this little kid, you want to do all this that you don't see every day. So, and then everybody assembled, the devotees assembled, the Kulwant Hall was packed because anytime you open up, the devotees come in. Kulwant Hall was packed. Swami came in and the bhajans were over. Swami took Aarati and that's when he was supposed to get into the car. The car was waiting, the door was open. Swami walks back to the residence. He doesn't get into the car. None of us understood why or what. There was a lot of confusion. Is Swami going, not going? We were happy that Swami decided not to go. He went back into his residence. The car slowly closed and went back behind him as well. No announcement was made. None of us knew what happened. Definitely, we knew something was not right. Swami went back. We all assembled, dispersed from Mandir and went back to the hostel. But then we were all having our own theory. Swami isn't well. Swami didn't want the same driver. Maybe Swami wanted a different car. Students, you just want to make up your own story somehow to fix what's going on. We go back to the hostel. We're just settling down again, back to the routine. And then an announcement was made in the PA system that Swami would leave in a couple of hours. So we have to go back to the mandir. I was telling myself, Swami, this is ridiculous. First, you made us wake up in the morning. So to be in Puttaparthi in the mandir by 6 o'clock, 6:30 or so, you can understand 400 students in one hostel need to assemble, wake up at what time, get ready, and then breakfast. And then all of these, probably your day started at 4 to be in mandir by 7. And then Swami just doesn't do what he's promised to do, what he's expected to do. And then he goes back. We don't want to do what we are expected to do, but whenever Swami is not doing what he's expected to do, we really get very upset, right? So on this day as well, we all went back and the announcement was made that Swami would go back. And I was really angry with Swami. Of course, you can't share with anyone that I was telling myself, Swami, this is not okay. You made all of us come and now you are wanting us to come again. So anyway, I complained to myself. And then I was asking around why this decision, why after 2 hours? And somebody said it was Rahu Kalam in the morning. For those of you who don't know, but Rahu Kalam is not the auspicious time. It's considered in India, in the Hindu philosophy, that you do not do anything very important during these hours. And you're okay to do any time after that. And apparently during that period that the car was there and Swami were to come, it was that period that was not very auspicious. So Swami decided to postpone. So this, when I came to know, made me even more angry. Now, first of all, Swami, you did not do what was expected of you in the morning. And now you decided 2 hours later that we all must reassemble. And all for the reason that it's bad time. We chant Swami Kalaya Namaha. Swami meaning Om Shri Sai Kalaya Namaha. You are time. And then so that we don't stop there. We say Om Shri Sai Kala Titaya Namaha. Swami, you're beyond time. If Swami, you're time and you're beyond time, what bothered you was that there was not so auspicious time, which is why you went back and made all of us reassemble. So I was not taking this. This was absolutely unfair. But all of this again in my little head only. I didn't dare open my mouth to say it to anybody. But then I was just fighting with myself, talking to the Swami within me. And then I soon forgot. As soon as the queue started from the hostel, I went back along with every student. This time I really sat in a corner where I could get an opportunity to get a good glimpse into the car, because I haven't seen inside of the car any time. I have seen Swami so many times. Now I wanted to see the car. So I sat in a place where I could see the car, and the car comes, Swami comes. He was talking to a few ladies and then he is passing by. And then when he came to the car, it was our turn to pray and see. And I forgot all my thoughts. It's just when you see Swami, you're just so happy. And Swami, as he was sitting in the chair of the car chair in the back seat, he nodded in my direction. Not to me, in my direction. But that is enough. You just want that confusion. Whether it's me or not, you go anyway, and then maybe you get a picture, maybe you get something Swami would say. So like 5-6 of us went to Swami, because none of us knew who. So all of us took the opportunity. And we went to Swami. Swami was sitting, and this is what he said. He said, Rahu Kalam Naku Kadura Niku. He said, the Rahu Kalam, the inauspicious time, is not for me, it is for you. We say Bhagawan is omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, but what really is that? Is that when you write a letter and put it here in front of Swami's altar that Swami can see, even though you don't show him? Or is it when you share it with somebody that he can hear that conversation because he's everywhere? No, he's even deeper. Even if a thought passes from one membrane to another membrane in your own head, he's there in between, watching your thoughts. That's why he says, watch your words, watch your action, watch your act. thought, what's your character? What's your heart and what's your character? So he's watching everything, the omnipotent Sai, omniscient Sai. That was a life-changing incident that happened to me, where Swami read my mind. That only I knew, that I haven't told one more person. That confusion of mine, he clarified, saying, I'm everywhere. Watch out, be careful. That thought we must all carry with ourselves, that he is everywhere with us, especially with us, because we have surrendered to him. We have called ourselves his devotees. We are saying, I'm proudly Sai student, Sai devotee. I belong to this organization. I belong to the center, meaning he is with you. Meaning that puts us a big responsibility for us to really be up to his expectations.
Brother, thank you so much. You are transporting us back to Prashanthi to relive those beautiful divine memories with you. But I want to go back a little bit to your talk, where Swami instructed you to go and speak. And when Swami told you to go and speak, can you describe a little bit your state of mind? Was there fear? Was there doubt? Was there uncertainty? Because you said you first asked Swami, went to the podium, then you went back to him. Can you describe your inner state at that time? And then when you went to the podium, you simply said, Om Shri Sai Ram, and it was as if Swami took over from there. Walk us through that experience.
Sure. So when I went to Swami, it was all happy. You can actually see in this picture, the previous picture I was sharing, that I was so happy, like anyone else would be when you go to Swami. It was all smiles. I was trying to, as best as possible, to understand what Swami was saying, but not so much when he asked me to speak. So two things I have learned is, with Swami, we have to be ever ready. But my state of mind at that point was blank. I actually know a lot of poems that my father had taught me of my grandfathers. In hindsight, I thought I could have simply recited 5-6 poems, would have taken good 10 minutes, and then I am good to go. That would have been very smart of me. That didn't happen. Because it was that moment that Bhagawan wanted to teach you something. There is nothing that could stop him from giving you that opportunity of lesson. For a long period of time, until I surrendered, I think this is critical, brother, a bit. I tried to fool around. I went there, thought it's not real. Swami will call me back because he wouldn't want to make me a fool out there. Or it would just not look good on Swami that a Swami student couldn't just speak. He just was being funny there. But that's not what happened. I went back and gave it another try. Okay, Swami probably now will think, okay, go sit. It's okay. You're not fit for it. That was my expectation when I went back to Swami second time. But then, no, that was not to be. Swami said, go and speak. So now I knew I'm really in trouble. I really need to step up. My abilities, my skills, my devotion, nothing is enough. I am not measuring up right now. I need to surrender. I know my dad can't help me, my mom can't help me, my teachers can't help me at this point. There is only one person that can help me. That is the one who gave me the problem. So that's when I thought, okay, what am I doing? You remember the Gajendra Moksha, until you surrender. So I then thought, okay, Swami it is, okay, you put me here, you take care of this. And then I closed my eyes and in prayer, and then the miracle happened. I think sometimes it's just so short that I'm able to explain it as a module, but some of our lives will happen in that going back and forth with Swami. You probably are talking to Swami, expecting Swami to give you something else. Do I have another option, Swami? You're going back and forth, back and forth. No, stop. Surrender. The solution will come by itself. I think those few minutes I had, from a monkey mind, I have transformed all the way to a man probably, and slightly maybe to an iota of being a good devotee of Swami for a few seconds. I think that was the transformation that happened in that little few minutes between the two.
Brother, that was very revealing and transforming. And what I'm getting a sense of is when you stood at the podium and said Om Shri Sai Ram, I guess there was a surrendering of yourself to Swami to be the instrument to speak through me, talk through me. And then, as you said, you spoke and you didn't know what you said. You couldn't recall what you said, and not even others. But so many people were inspired because there was a thunderous applause after your talk. So what a powerful lesson of just surrendering and allowing yourself to be the willing instrument in his hands. Very beautiful. So, brother, it leads me to another question. It is reported that Swami once said, "The dust of my students' feet will transform the world." What are your thoughts, and can you expand on this statement?
Sure, brother. I mean, that is so much responsibility on every student. He was being too generous, I would say. I would speak for the student community now. He was being too generous of us. But then that is Swami. Right? He really gives you the task first and then asks you to measure up for it. It's not other way around. It's not that he gives you a job description and asks you, can you get the skill you need for it, and then give you the job. No, he gives you the job first, and then you need to work backwards if you're not up ready there. So I think that's a tremendous responsibility. Yes, Swami did say that. Swami did say that. So that puts us in such, I would say, I don't want to use the word elite, but then more in terms of elite, in terms of responsibility, elite in terms of actual labor that you need to do to measure up to his expectations constantly. There is no slip up that would be allowed. That is what it is. But then how would you do that, really? Is there a way? I mean, that was some questions I used to ask, because there was another occasion I'll just briefly mention, where Swami materialized a crystal in Trai Vrindavan. And then in the crystal were so many, it's a small that Swami could hold in his hand. And then he passed it around to few devotees who were there. And some of these pictures also on Google, probably we could find Swami holding a crystal in his hand in a Trai session in Vrindavan. And I wasn't there, it was much, much earlier than my time. But then the Swami said, when he passed this crystal around, that in this are written, you can't see because it's so small, all my students that would take senior positions in my organization and will lead Swami's organization according to how Swami would want it. I have already written on this much before. So Swami has already set in stone what is expected of us, what responsibilities we must have as a student community, as an individual. So that is all set in stone. Now, our responsibility is to really walk his talk. That is a responsibility that we have as a student. But I would just expand it a little more. Swami was talking to students on a day-to-day basis. So most of his speeches, most of his discourses, if you see, he would address the students. But I would think, Swami has also said this, that a student of mine is not someone who has studied in Prashanthi. We all were very happily relaxed, sitting, saying, okay, we're all Sai student. You could be forever. Nobody can take that off from me, even if I become a bad devotee from tomorrow, because I'm a Sai student. But Swami said, no, you have that. It's not a permanent title. You are a Sai student when you follow my teachings. The student of Sai, not the student of the building. I probably am just a student of a building until I measure up to become the student of Sai. And that is each one of us. So which is again going back to Swami's, the song Swami sings, love is my form, truth is my birth. And that if you continue, Swami says, my life is my message. which was very clear when he said, my life is my message. It's like Swami saying his life is his message. All right, whoever wants it, take it. Whoever doesn't want it, there is nothing in that line that says every devotee must follow. But then later Swami said, my life must be your way of living. Your life must be my message. Okay, now you and me are in the game. Until now, my life is my message is up to him. But now he says, your life must be led according to my message. So now we all have a task on hand. We all have been told, okay, this is what you have to do. And then do we really become deserving of that statement Swami said, where we walk, it becomes divine. Where we speak, it becomes divine. But until then, you are on the journey to reach him.
Oh, very beautifully explained. I like the description of student. I think it's very universal. And it's important for us to bear in mind that we all have a responsibility, if we claim to be believers in Him, to lead lives in such a way that we reflect His message. So, brother, share a little bit about your student years in Prashanthi Nilayam. And you could probably share with us from which period of time you studied at Prashanthi. And also, if you could share one or two life lessons that you learned under the watchful eyes of Mother Sai, the watchful caring of her.
Sure. I think I studied, to start with the timeline, I studied from 1997 to 2007. I joined as a 11th class student. I studied my 10 years of school in my native town in Andhra Pradesh, and I joined in my 11th in Prashanthi Nilayam, and then I went on to study my undergrad and then post-graduation and my MBA in Prashanthi Nilayam. Again, it couldn't have happened without Swami's grace in abundance, because someone like me to go through so many degrees with the kind of discipline I have towards education, you really need so much more blessings to study so much. But that I've had the good fortune of. There was, I think it's interesting that 1998, when we were in the 11th grade, was also the first time after a very long time Swami materialized the lingam during Shivratri. If you see the old videos, Swami used to materialize lingam through his mouth. As Swami says, Shivratri is the time when the Shiva is in full force, and then that golden Amrita linga automatically comes from the right-hand side of the heart. Swami said left-hand side is the human heart, right-hand side is a divine heart. And that's when the gold of it comes out in the form of the lingam. It could happen to all of us, but Swami said it could happen to any of us, but then he's realized he's divine and we are still in the journey. But the reason I was sharing this is in 1998, the first year of our 11th class, which is also called the 98 batch that we are so called, Swami took out the lingam for the first time ever after a pause of 21 years, which he used to do earlier. Those were only available in black and white. If you see the recent photos of Swami materializing lingam through his mouth, only their color photos started in 1998. That is our batch. So we were called the lingam batch for a very long time. And so the golden period I was telling you in my life definitely was my studies, my education in Prashanthi Nilayam. And also, I think it's a golden era in Swami's avatar as well. And not because I studied in any way, but during that period, Swami had really launched so many projects. In that his avatar would really stand as a symbolic to blessings to the whole humanity. The Puttaparthi super specialty happened before, but then the Vrindavan super specialty hospital happened during my tenure. I had the good fortune to see it from close. The water projects, many of them were launched during that time. The Gram Seva was launched during that time. So a lot of important landmarks in Sai Avatar, I had the good fortune to see up close as a student. And if you ask me life lessons that I took from me, with so many experiences that I have had, I have seen my fellow students have, devotees have, Swami from up close, there are 3 lessons I take with me everywhere I go. These are something like I tell my kids now, and I try to follow myself. One is, I was telling you earlier as part of my experience, that do not tell Swami your problems. Instead, go tell your problems that there is Swami. He's already given us so much. We have to stop going to him on a day-to-day basis with our problems. He has come to give a beautiful example. Again, I keep going everywhere, but I'll come back to your question. There was a student that had conjunctivitis that could not see Swami, that could not be allowed to come to Mandir because he had the conjunctivitis, but he badly wanted to see Swami. And then he was completely quarantined because of that's it's a little bit contagious until a couple of hours before the darshan session, and suddenly he looks into the mirror and he finds that there is no problem in his eye. It's absolutely clear. He shows it to the teacher. They're surprised, and he comes to darshan because he was now allowed, because he didn't seem to have any problem in his eye. And when he came to Mandir, he saw Swami hold a handkerchief to his eye. And when he went close and had a look at Swami, Swami's eyes were blood red. So Swami had taken the problem from the boy just so the boy would be able to come and see him. So the point I was trying to make is Swami can do that. Let's not be surprised if Swami cures our fever, if Swami gives us a job that we've been asking for, if Swami gives us money, Swami gives us the spouse we want. Let's not stop there. Let's not put an end to Swami saying, okay, Swami can do this, this, and this. No, Swami has not come to do all this. He's giving us all this because that's all we are asking him for. He's actually come to give us something more superior. Every time you go to an interview or you have a chance to talk to Swami, the first question Swami is to ask is, do you have any spiritual questions? That is to be first question Swami asks. Most of the times I have heard, and the answer is usually blank. Nobody has any spiritual questions. Okay, Inkemi, what else do you have? Then it opens up. Swami, my mom is not well. Swami, I am not well. My puppy is not well. Then you have all of these problems that you need to take with your doctor or with your parents. You want to now show it to Swami. The point is, again, Swami has not come to solve these. He's only solving these because that's all we are taking. So do not tell Swami your problems. Instead, tell your problems you have Swami and face it. That's my first life lesson. Second one is, test is the taste of God, Swami said. Everywhere in our lives, there are tests, including the time that we are all in right now with the so-called, I would just put it as confusion sometimes, that we have in terms of where we are in the organization, where should we belong, what are these different organizations that are speaking to me and asking me to join this or join that are called by different names. So it's just a test of Bhagawan. So remember, Swami said this clearly, test is the taste of God. If there is a problem, it's because I have wanted to check with you how good you measure up to me. Just like the day he's asked me to speak, the day he's asked us to do different things that we think we are not capable of, and then end up doing something very well because of the courage we have gathered. We call ourselves lucky. We call ourselves, oh, somebody pushed me and I could do it. Somebody else helped me and I could do it. No. Swami is the one helping us. Swami is the one guiding us. Swami is the one making it happen according to his master plans. Test is taste of God. The third lesson I would take with me everywhere, and I would just leave with that, is that we must make Swami our own. Meaning take Swami in along with you in everything that you do. Are you going to bed? Invite Swami to sleep along with you. Are you going to work? Invite Swami to go with you to work. Are you going to speak? Invite Swami to speak through you. Take Swami along with you. Swami is that additional member in your family, or Swami is your best friend. And if Swami is with you, what problem could we really have? We all would have that courage if Swami is physically in flesh and blood next to me, which he is in different forms. There are so many experiences that we have heard where Swami was in Prashanthi and it was all happening around the world. It's exactly the same even now. Swami is there in spirit with all of us now. So we must all have that courage and the belief that we must take Swami with us everywhere in our mind. And then Swami has no choice. Swami said, wherever my name is sung, I install myself there. So you call him, Swami said, I have no other job. I'm sitting here waiting for anyone to call me because I want to go. So just take Swami along with you. You call and he is there. Thank you.
Beautiful, powerful life lessons for all of us, brother, through your divine sharing. So you spoke about your experiences as a student, your journey in Prashanthi Nilayam, those wonderful formative years of your life. So in another direction, what is it that drew you to join the Sri Sathya Sai Global Council? And it's interesting to hear from an alumni perspective. How did that take place? And why do you see that as beneficial, both from an individual level and from an organizational perspective?
Thank you, Ben. So I think it looks like there are options right now in front of us. But actually, if you really dig deep, think through the options that we have, there are no options. It looks like there are options. Again, back to test is the taste of God. So far, there were people up top, somebody sitting called the regional council, called the zonal chair, making decisions for all of us. And now Swami says, now it's time for all of you to play the game. Test is the taste of his God, right? So again, so now everyone is invited to play the game. Okay, you make a choice. It's not going to be made for you. So you're called on to kick the ball yourself. You're not a spectator anymore enjoying the game. Now you're playing the game now. So I think we all have seen Swami. I think that opportunity no other person can boast of except us, where we have associated ourselves. You need not have to see him physically. I know that many of us might not have done. But even if you have not seen him physically, to be associated with an avatar, to be born on planet Earth at the same time an avatar walked on Earth. How many of us can really, in the lives of that we have spent, we have seen, generations after generation can really boast of that? That where they have lived at the same time on the same planet along with an avatar. That is the opportunity Bhagawan gave us. And that we all have witnessed, we all have seen, we all have experienced in some form or fashion. And all of that has happened from the epicenter of Sri Sathya Sai organizations worldwide, Prashanthi Nilayam. Puttaparthi stands tall in all of the world only because of Sri Sathya Sai. The sthana balam, they say, like the power of the place is so critical. If you look at any religion, there is a holy place that we all worship, not because of the stone there, not because of the building around the place, not because of the temple that has been built, because of the auspiciousness that has been attached with it, because of the avatar that has blessed it in different forms. Maybe they lived there, maybe they walked there, maybe they installed a statue there, whatever be it. And for us, that is Prashanthi. So like I said initially, it looked like there are options, but there are actually no options, because the Global Council has its epicenter clearly marked in Prashanthi Nilayam, without a question. Everything arises from that place. Everything is centered from that place. I think that in itself is an answer, even before you pose yourself another question, that our alignment must be to Prashanthi Nilayam. It can be called anything. Let it be called ABC tomorrow. When its epicenter is in Prashanthi Nilayam, when its inspiration is in Prashanthi Nilayam, when its headquarters is in Prashanthi Nilayam, that is where we align ourselves. That is what we have all done all these while. We might have been called differently, but then we went back here. If somebody is telling you cannot go back here, or that's not where your centricity belongs, then it's a question for you to think. That's, I think, on an individual level that we can really think about ourselves. These are my thoughts. We can all have our own reasoning as to why and what. As an organization, Swami is always been for unity. Like we're now, you could question that we are talking about unity, but then we do not have unity in this whole process, because that is exactly what seems to be the problem in this whole episode. But again, there are 3 organizations that Swami has established. The idea has been floated that all of them come together, and 2 of them have come together and asked the 3rd organizations to come and join, which for reasons best known to them did not happen. So again, looking at it from 2 aspects, one is the centricity in Prashanthi Nilayam and an organization that is really calling for unity and inviting the 3rd organization to join, while they have their own reasons why they cannot or why they do not want to. Again, leaves us with very little choice, very little thinking as to why someone should really align themselves with Global Council. I think we owe it to Bhagawan to come together, to follow his words, follow his discourses, follow his message, follow his teachings, to be the ideal devotees that we should be. And that, I believe, is possible through this vehicle called Global Council right now where we are. Thank you, Baba.
So, brother, going back to the statement that Swami made many years ago, that the dust of my students' feet will transform the world. If I'm looking at it from a specific angle, meaning the students that have come through Prashanthi Nilayam and the role that they have to play, is it true to say then that a large percentage of the alumni across the world are aligned with Global Council? And how significant is that alignment?
To my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, I think majority of the alumni have aligned themselves to Global Council. From what I know, from what I'm receiving messages from the different groups that I'm part of, the messages that are being spread, everybody sees understanding, everybody sees logic, everybody sees the storyline very clearly as to why and what they must do. That being said, I also want to put this on record that there could be students, not to my knowledge, but there could be students out there who have their own understanding of Bhagawan, their own understanding of how and what, and their own reasoning as to why not Global Council, why not the other organization, and which is perfectly reasonable in their own understanding. But if to your question specifically, to the best of my knowledge, the majority of alumni have understood and have seen the reason and reasoning behind why Global Council was formed and aligned themselves to Global Council.
So, brother, when we look around in the society today, there is so much apparent chaos, confusion at the different levels in the society, at the personal level, the family level, the society, the nation, and the world at large. There's a breakdown in respect and communication between children and parents. There's fighting and inner squabbles. Nations are at war with each other. There's an apparent disunity that is prevalent throughout the world. Bhagawan says that he has come to awaken the inherent divinity in each and every one of us. And as that unfolds, harmony and unity and love will prevail. From your perspective, what are some guidelines or recommendations from your perspective that you can give to the general public out there about the role that each and every one of us can play in creating a better society and a more value-based society?
Quite a thoughtful question, I would say. And I think every one of us must introspect as to what is the best role we can really play in the society, in the environment that we are living in. That's up to us. Somebody can do something small. Somebody has the capability and resources to do something really big with a lot of scope. And that we have seen in Swami's life. There were devotees that just came to Swami and said, Swami, I have a lot of money. Help me build something. And Swami did give them opportunities to build institutions, build organizations. At the same time, there were people that came to Swami with a lot of money and Swami said, I don't need your money. So my understanding of both of these incidents, the requirement is not money. The requirement is a pure heart. The requirement is the intention that they wanted to give and do whatever they wanted to do to Swami. I think it boils down to that as well. Like Swami says, man sees the result, God sees the effort. So I think if we keep that in mind, because many young students especially could have this like, okay, nobody is watching me. What is the point in doing the right thing? Is it really necessary when no one is there? I think that's when it becomes even more critical, because God judges you then. When nobody is watching you is when God is watching you. So I think the question we must all ask ourselves is, are we giving our best? Like they say, I mean, I teach at work continuous improvement, lean methodologies. So continuous improvement is simply, have you been better today than yesterday? Not comparable to another person or another organization or another individual. Just to yourself, which is the easiest scale you can follow. You told 20 lies yesterday. Can you do 19 tomorrow? You did 10 adharmic things yesterday. Can you do 9 day after tomorrow? So if you have measured yourself against yourself to improve, God is seeing your effort. I think the first takeaway I would request all of you to consider on this question is, remember, Bhagawan is watching. And if we can do our best every day, he will give the strength to do better and better and better. If we do not make an effort, to your question also, brother, I mean, there is so much bad happening. It could be bother any one of us. Bhagawan has walked on earth. Why is still so much bad happening? Should it not automatically transform the whole thing because he just walked here? If you look at avatar after avatar, not everyone, when Bhagawan was there, had the opportunity, not just Bhagawan Sai. Every avatar that you look at in the past, not everyone had the opportunity to come in Bhagawan's fold or to come in contact with the Lord or come have darshan of the Lord or get a message from the God. No, it did not happen. Bhagawan avatar comes for a certain, he has a scope that he decides before he comes. That is all of us. What more do we need to live in harmony? What more do you need to live in unity when the biggest responsibility has been given? The best job that you can think of, God gave us the job. And the job is to walk his message. And even what to do also has been given. So there is no need to look around, no need to ask, no need to look for guidance from somewhere. Guidance has been given. God has been chosen. Path has been told. And all you have to do is just walk the path, doing what is told to do, which is what we complain when we go to children. I told you to do so, you still didn't do it. Swami is saying the same thing to all of us from there. I told you, I told you, I told you, I told you. Let us give him as many less opportunities as possible to point a finger and say, I told you. No, Swami, you told me, so I did it. That is what we should be able to tell him back. I think if these few things we keep in mind, probably my humble opinion will make a better place for all of us to live.
So, brother, the understanding I've gotten from what you've just shared is that Swami has given us everything. He has given us the teaching, He has set the example himself. He has provided guidance in every aspect of our lives through so much of his divine discourses. So we have no excuse to say we didn't know. So we have to walk the talk, be the change, embody his teachings, and as you so rightly said, be a good example of his teachings. And I remember attending the 1986 EHV conference in Prashanthi, Nilayam. And Swami said during the course of his message, he said the best way to teach EHV is to live it. So too much talk and too little practice. We have to become heroes at practicing and not so much at talking. So thank you so much, brother, for that wonderful guidance and that sharing of advice that we all need to incorporate in our daily lives. So, as we come to the end of this wonderful and divine interview, the Sri Sathya Sai Global Council West Indies expresses gratitude and appreciation to you for taking the time to share your personal journey and perspective on the teachings of Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Your experiences and your sharing was truly inspiring, motivational, and thought-provoking. May Bhagawan continue to bless and guide you, and may you continue to be a loving instrument as his divine mission unfolds. But before we end, can you recite one or two more slokas to bring this talk to a fitting end?
ಶ್ರೀಯುತ ಮೂರ್ತಿ ವತ್ಸಲದ ಚಿಂದಡಿ ಬೃಂದರ ಸುಂದರ ಸತ್ಯಮೂರ್ತಿ ಆಪ್ಯಾಯತ ರೂಪು ದಾಲ್చిన కృపావర సాగర చక్రవర్తి సుశ్రేయముగూర్చి బోధలు వచించు సుకోకిల గానమూర్తి శ్రీ సత్యసాయిష నీ చరణ సారసముల్ భజయించదన్ ప్రభు. Just share this particular poem is very dear to me. I've chanted in front of Swami nearly 10 times. During my course of my education that I've got. And it's really, at one point, Swami used to start laughing because as soon as I go, this is the first poem I would say. And that Swami enjoying it made it even more pleasing for me, even more dear to me. I really keep that. It's again another poem my grandfather had written. And I was able to offer it to Swami so many times. And thank you so much, brother, for the opportunity. For giving me this forum to express my thoughts, my experiences. I hope that will serve well with all the devotees of West Indies, and I really look forward to coming down there and interacting with all of you and seeing all of you in your centers at some point in the future. Thank you so much.